Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Shelly Hayes, and I am excited that we have over 100 people with us already, and it looks like we'll have about close to 200 this afternoon, as well as the 200 that joined us this morning. So we are so thankful that you have decided to join us today and want to learn more about the opportunity to learn and gain knowledge from and for the for the application. So again, I'm Shelly Hayes. I wanted to let you know a couple housekeeping items as we get started. So many of you were gracious enough to confirm earlier that the sound is working, and so you know where the questions tool is in your dashboard. So if you can, throughout the webinar, submit your questions to us utilizing this tool. We'll do our best to answer the questions to you directly or as a group. And we noticed this morning there are some questions that have come in or that do come in that are very specific to your organization. And so those questions we will hold on to, and we will have your manager follow up with you later just to talk out and hash out all the details if it is a very specific question. But if it's a general question, we will definitely try to answer all of those as they come through, whether it's sending you a private message back or addressing as the group together. So I also wanted to let you know that the slides and the webinar will be posted at the member resources page on our website. In fact, we've actually already posted the slides as well as this morning's webinar, so you can have access to those, and it's the same webinar. So you can go ahead and have access to those at your convenience on the member resources page. So it's really important for us to stay connected. And I've outlined here 3 ways that we want to make sure that we stay connected with you and your organization. 1, you should probably know if you've been with us this past year, we have gone through a consolidation and you do have a manager assigned to your organization. We have 8 nationwide, and if you're unfamiliar with who it is, we can connect you via memberconnection@healthcharities.org. So simply send us an email. This is a great tool for you. We answer all the questions that come through. We connect you to the right person who you should, so we can always help you out through the memberconnection@healthcharities.org email. A second way that's really important to stay connected to us is through our Member Connection updates. These go out on Tuesdays, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And it's really important to check those on a weekly basis, because you'll have very helpful application tips, timelines, links to tutorials, as well as any upcoming applications, which mainly happen in the spring for those state and municipal campaigns. But we wanted to draw your attention to the Member Connection update because that's a great resource, and most of you probably are reading it because you've registered for today's webinar through receiving that and connecting to that. If you're on the call today and are not receiving it, feel free to send an email to memberconnection@healthcharities.org, and we will be sure to get you added to that list. Please include the name of your organization if it's not in your signature line, so we can make sure to tie you to the right group. Also, wanted to point out our healthcharities.org/member resources page. I'm going to refer to this page several times during today's presentation. So I wanted to make you familiar with this because there's a lot of great tutorials and tips that you can find right there at your fingertips 24/7, anytime that you want. All right. The next step that I wanted to walk through is actually giving you a peek at the Member Resources page. So again, you can see here we had today's webinar posted, as well as some quick tip tutorials for some of the pieces that we're going to walk through today. This again is the same place that that you would find today's webinar and PowerPoint for future reviewing. So feel free take a look at that member resources page. There's always going to be a lot of helpful tips for you there. Also on the page, this is where you will actually find the list of upcoming campaigns. So the upcoming state and local campaigns that happen generally in the spring, when you read your member connection update and they say there's a campaign, it's going to take you over to here. We also heard from a number of you who wanted to have access to, you know, the look of the year so you can plan with your team. We have consolidated all of the campaigns from last year and their specific requirements and deadlines. So you can see there is a look at what has been submitted in the past to help you for planning purposes only. Please know that the requirements and deadlines that are listed on this spreadsheet are subject to change. So definitely use it as a resource, but we want to make sure that you have that for planning purposes only. You'll also see then the 2016, and that's where the ones that are coming up that you could apply for. Just wanted to give you a quick look at the map. Our team covers the entire United States and not necessarily contiguously with their area of coverage. So again, if you're not familiar with who your manager is, feel free to send an email to memberconnection at healthcharities.org, and we can get you connected very easily. So when it's time to get started on your online application, we want to make sure that you have your credentials. Now, if you were the primary contact last year and were the person who was completing the application for your organization, your credentials will remain the same. There's no change at all that needs to take place for those credentials. If you don't remember them, simply go to the website and click Forgot Password, and it will email you your username and password. If you are new to the organization or new to your role in the organization, feel free to email memberconnection at healthcharities.org and request that login. Now, the next two bullet points are really important here. Anyone and multiple people in your organization can have access to the member resource page, and we can easily create a username and password for you to log in there. However, we can only have one contact as the primary contact who would be able to access the application from their login. Now, we have had some groups who have set up generic logins for their primary so that multiple people can access. But we wanted to make you aware of this. So if you do not have a password and you need credentials to log in, we need you to send us an email at memberconnection and include the following. Your name, obviously that comes through. It may not come through as it is, or if you don't have a signature line, your email address, your organization name, because sometimes it's not the same as what your email address says, or it's hard sometimes to figure out, and then if you are the primary rep. So we need to set you up a little bit differently if you're the primary versus just looking at the member resource page. So please indicate which you are so that we can get those set up for you correctly. Moving forward, let's take a look at the timeline for 2016. This also can be found on the member resource page. We are kicking off the online application for our nationwide members September 1, which is hard to believe is already next week. Then we'll begin with the local members on October 1 through October 30th. So we have a month for each slated to do your application. Now, if you are a local member, and that means you are unique to a market, you do services local to your community, not nationwide. A nationwide member would mean you do services in 15 or more states. You have a wide reach. So if you are a chapter of a national or unique to your market, you are considered local. So don't hesitate to get or don't think that we don't have plans for you for September while the national members are accessing the online application. We'll get to that in a second. We want you to begin starting to work on some of those things in September as well. Both memberships will be presented to the board that first week of December for approval. Now, please know that we will work through and we'll give you a little bit more of the process as we get farther into the training today. we will definitely connect with you to make sure that we have everything that is required, everything that is needed before we present you to the board. So we wouldn't expect any kind of things to come up there. We'll make sure to work with you very closely, very directly before we get to that point so that there would be no surprises. Also want to point out to you that just because we've gone through the application process, your manager has told you that you're in good standing, the board has approved you, we actually still then have to get everything submitted to the campaigns and then wait for their approvals. And, you know, there are still some state and local campaigns that we're still even now receiving approvals from. But the combined federal campaign approvals generally come in May, June, July time period. So we'll let you know if there are any issues that come up that we need to appeal and continue on in the process. So as I mentioned, in September, we want the local charities to go ahead and begin to work on preparation for their Attachment A. As I mentioned, there is a place on the member resources page for you to find a template that you can use, as well as a tutorial to help guide you through that process. It's a 7-minute tutorial that will really walk you through what you need to include in that template, making sure that your organization has a very clear human health and welfare statement, as well as providing activities from 2015. Also, that physical address is key, as if you were with us last year, you know that the Office of the Combined Federal Campaign did change the guidelines, and we can only put you in campaigns for the Combined Federal Campaign that you actually have a physical address in. That physical address needs to be reported on your Attachment A, as well as what you report in your CFC, Combined Federal Campaign application. So we want to make sure that everyone feels really educated. And so we've prepared those items to help you in the next 30 days so that when it's time, you can just get it uploaded. So feel free to get a draft going, send it over to your manager. They're on alert, ready to help you to make sure that during September, you can get all of that taken care of so that it won't slow you down. Then step 2 would be for you to log into your online application. And forgive this typo, it is October 30th. That is the deadline, which was on the screen originally. So we want you to log into the online application, and then there will be a main menu for you that includes these steps. So the contact information all the way through the attachments A through D. So once you log in, and again, the deadline here is for those local charities. For nationwide charities, we want you to get yours done in September, and you should have had a call from your manager this past week. And if not, we'll help you walk through that process as well. So you come to your main page, and there's a couple of things that I want to point out here. Once you get all the way through the application, and we're going to walk through slides of the entire application now, you will receive a Submit Application for Review button. This button will then be pushed, and it will alert us that we can then review your application. Now, if you do have questions before you get all the way to the end, feel free to send them in. We're happy to help you, but then once you get everything uploaded, entered in, you would hit that Submit. This is just a quick view of what the table looks like, and it is a little different if you used it last year. Last year, you had the capability of checking off the boxes. This year, the boxes will only be checked once you complete a step. And so once you go into a step, you'll be asked to populate information or do an upload. Once you've done that correctly, the box will be checked. If you go to the next step and something was missed, the box will not be checked. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're ready to submit, all of these boxes have been checked complete. So the first step on here is the application fee. And we had made everyone aware that there was going to be an application fee this fall because there were the changes with the Combined Federal Campaign. Earlier this month, the combined federal campaign did announce that they were pushing those changes back for a year. So for local members, there will be no fee. If you are attending today's webinar as a nationwide member, the application fee will remain the same that it has for the last several years. But I wanted to point out these two boxes, the main page and the next box. So step one is going to be super easy. You simply come in and you hit next. It's going to check the box off for you because there's nothing for you to complete here. There is no back button, so you would always push main page if you wanted to go back to the main menu. Next will take you to the next screen. And the next, if we hit next here, that would bring up the contact sheet. So this is the contact information for your charity, including the charity contact information, as well as pertinent people who hold roles in your organization. Again, the person who is considered that official representative or primary, that's going to be the person who's doing the actual application. We have space in here for your marketing contact, your finance contact, also your volunteer and program people for Volunteer Matters 365, as well as Health Matters at Work. So if you're the same person in your organization that wears many hats or multiple roles, simply check that box and it will populate for you as you go through. So once you're finished on that step, you would hit the next button and it would take you to the membership appointment and application. Now, whatever information you entered in that last step, it's going to pre-populate this document. This document is the membership standards that we have used as an organization over the last several years. It now looks a little bit different. It's all spelled out. So you'll see there's certification 1 all the way through certification 21. We ask that your organization read through these and check the box associated to the left. You would then print out and sign and upload the document back to us. Now again, these have not changed, but we wanted to spell each one of them out. So in the past, last year, it just said, please sign that you have read these. And so this year we want to make sure that everyone is feeling comfortable with this because it's very important for us to be able to tell our donors and tell the companies that we work with and on the public side that these are the best charities out there and you can feel comfortable giving to them. And so as you work through those certifications, if your organization happens to not meet one of those certifications, there are some certifications that you can request a waiver, and that area is at the back of the form. So feel free to complete that waiver for 2016. We are, however, working with you and want to work with you this year to make sure that by 2017, every one of our member charities can check each one of those certifications. We've also included a few templates in this packet so that if your organization does not meet one of those and wants a template to kind of help them get started, it's already there for you. Again, it's just a template for you to pick and choose what you might want to use from it. One of the questions that came in that said, we will need to put the application fee in our budget. Do you know how much it will be approximately? Unfortunately, the government has not told us. They originally were going to tell us in August, but they actually never announced that. And so as soon as we hear, we will be sure to communicate that to you as quickly as possible because we do know that there is some budgetary issues. But as of now, they have not given us, they've kind of talked about some things, but really they have not been able to give us any particular or specific details. If you're working on a page in the application and don't finish filling it out on the page, will it still be saved? Absolutely. Yes, the system is created that it will save your work as you go along. So whether you hit next or main page, it will save your work. So no problem at all there. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the presentation. Thanks for those questions. So I also wanted to point out that we do have a tutorial and the membership appointment already posted on the member resource page. So go ahead, it goes into a lot more detail than we did here today. Feel free to check that out, go through it, and that will be able to, hopefully answer any questions. Again, if you have additional questions, always feel free to reach out to your manager or the member connection email. Looks like we had another question come in. Is your information in here from the last year? contacts, etc. We did our best to have information that you populated from last year, including contacts, as well as your marketing materials carry over. So that is our goal, and that will be continue to be our goal as we continue to go through. So yes, you should see a lot of the information that you entered, including your NTE codes and 25-word statement, and we'll get there in a second, but that should carry over if you did enter that previously. Excellent. All right, so let's jump back into the online application, and the next step would be the charity profile. This is where, again, you tell us all the pertinent information that we would use in having your organization promoted to donors. Specifically on the public side, they use the 25-word statement and their AFR and all of those pieces. You know, to include. So as you go through, again, your information, if you entered it here last year, should stay pre-populated or should be pre-populated, including your CFC code. If for some reason you don't remember your CFC code or it's not there, we've provided a link here that you can go in and look that code up. It's really simple lookup, or you can email us and we're happy to look that up for you as well. Again, your 25-word statement should be posted here. I know it says 256 character. That was going to be a change that the government had in place. They just let us know that we're not moving forward this year. So by the time you log in, this should be changed for you back to the 25-word statement. And interestingly enough, 25-word statement and 256 characters are about the same thing. All right, so then we get to your AFR calculation. The instructions are at the top of the page, but you would simply fill out the 2 lines with your fundraising and your administrative and divide it by the total revenue, and you would be able to, it will calculate for you. The next step after you hit next would be your marketing materials. Again, the majority of these would carry over from last year if you've posted them, but this is where you would put your logos, your stories of caring, your pledge buys, all of that information that's really helpful for us both on the public and private side. So we want to make sure that we have all of that at our fingertips so that we can provide to those campaigns to really help promote your organization. Next in the online application is the CFC application and certifications. Again, this will be pre-populated for the information that you posted in that contact and charity profile step. So you're going to want to make sure that you finish those 2 steps before you hit this one because it'll pre-populate for you. Once you get to this step, it'll be populated. We want you to start with certification number 1, which is super important. This is where you put the service address of your organization. You would enter that here if it is different than what was on the front, as well as the hours of operation and your phone line and the county where it is. Again, this will help us know what campaigns to put you in the combined federal campaign, because as you recall, last year they took away the statewide and adjacent, so we can only put you in the campaigns where you actually have a service address. And sometimes people feel a little frustrated with that, but because of universal giving, which means if you're a charity in Nashville and you can no longer apply to the Memphis campaign because you no longer can do adjacent, it doesn't mean that Memphis donors can't give to you. Because of universal giving, now your charity is eligible to receive contributions from any federal employee across the country. So again, we do need your service address because that's the only campaigns that we can put you in physically, but donors would be able to find you through the universal giving toolkit. The next page of the certifications, or actually the following, I just wanted to jump to number 7. This is the certification where we submit your AFR or your overhead percentage. So it's very important that you finish that charity profile page, enter your numbers in so that this will populate for you. Before we move on from the CFC application, I just wanted to point out to you that there are several certifications in the document that have ORs. So it may be, let's say, certification 3. There may be 3 options, this option or a third option. Make sure to check the box or the radio button that pertains to you. Do not just go through and check all of the boxes, because it is an OR on several of those. But once you finish checking all of the boxes, you would then use the navigation buttons at the bottom to print the document. You would then sign it and then use the document to upload it back to us. Then you would go back to the main page or next, depending on where you're at in the process. So that's a look at the CFC application piece of it. And let's now move on to the attachment A, which is the next step in the online application. So attachment A, we touched briefly on this. We really do encourage you to get started now utilizing the quick tip tutorial that can be found either here on the application page or on the member resource page, as well as the template. So there's a template for nationwide charities and local charities. And when you log in, if you're not sure who you are, again, if you're unique to a market or a community, you're considered local. If you have services that go nationwide, you would be considered a nationwide member. If you are a chapter of a national organization, you would be considered local, and you would be provided that local template. So these are all very important information for you to go ahead and get started now, watching that video, getting familiar with the template, collecting your information, so that when you come to the online application, you simply do the browse and upload your document to us. So that's it for attachment A. You would go on to attachment B, which is your IRS determination letter. So again, if you're unique to a market, you're simply going to give us your IRS determination letter. And I know in the past, there was some talk about needing an updated IRS letter. You know, it couldn't be over a certain number of years old. That is not a requirement anymore. So we can take an IRS determination letter that is very old, as long as you are still in good standing with the IRS. The campaigns do go in and check against the IRS database. So you want to make sure, obviously, that you're in good standing. Now, if you're with us today and you're a nationwide organization, there are 2 more pieces that you need to include. That is that CEO letter with the list of your bona fide chapters. So your CEO letter does need to be dated October 1 or after, as well as we've provided you a template this year so that you can easily list your bona fide chapters for us. Again, once you do the upload for your materials, you would simply click Next to go to the next step, which is attachment C and the audit. And so the audit is really important part of the online application. You have to make sure that both your audit and your 990 dates match, and they must be June 30th, 2014 or after. So if your fiscal year ends on June 30th and you have the 2014 audit, that's what we need. The audit and the 990, again, must match, and they must be from June 30th, 2014 or after. So if your fiscal year ends September 30th or December 31, as long as it's after June 30th, 2014, you'll be good to go and can submit that to us. One of the things that we did run in, sorry, I was on the wrong screen. One of the things that we did run into last year was some folks uploaded to us some unsecure or secured. They sent us secured audits. And for us to be able to function and upload, your application, many of the campaigns are electronic and do require us to upload. And so we do want to make sure that when you submit this, both the audit and the 990 to us, that they are unsecured documents. So please make sure that when you're going through the upload process, that document is unsecured so we have easy access. If not, we'll have to come back and ask for it anyways. So we had a question that came in, and it says, if your organization audit is not completed by the application deadline, can the previous year's audit be submitted? it absolutely could be submitted as long as it's dated June 30th, 2014 or after. So if last year your organization was ahead of the game, got all of your financials done and had it already ready, absolutely you could submit that. So, however, you can't submit it if it was a 2013 audit, so, or 990. So make sure that if you are going to use last year's, it does fit the date, period that we're talking about. All right, next slide we're going to move on to is the final step in the online application, which is attachment D. This is your 990. This is the place where you would upload your unsecured 990 or 990 pro forma, depending on where you're at. And it must, again, meet the date requirements of June 30th, 2014 or after or later, and be the same date as that audit. Now, one thing we did run into last year, and we tried to put a little safeguard in this year, is if you submit a 990, whether it be a full 990 or a pro forma, it must be signed on page 1. And so sometimes people would just get whatever from the finance office and be on time, get it over to us, but that first page was not signed by an officer. So it's very important to us, or very important to you, that you give us the signed one, because we cannot submit to campaigns if it's not signed. However, if your organization does submit to the IRS electronically, you would probably have on file, or your finance department would have on file, what they call a Form 8879. This is an e-file giving your organization authority to submit via electronically to the IRS. So if you have an unsigned 990 dated June 30th, 2014 or after, please do not send it to us. We need to have page 1 signed or a signed copy of Form 8879. So when you're going through, we want you to double check and please upload a document that is signed. Another piece of information that often gets folks in trouble is on page 1, question 3. It asks for the total number of board members. This must match the total number of board members that are identified in Part 7, column C, and in that first column, identifying them as individual trustees. Now, that was a lot of information, and so if it didn't make sense, please go to the member resource page. You can download the tutorial, and it'll go through all of what I just said in a lot more detail. So you would then hit next or main page, but if you hit next and your check boxes are all completed, it would then give you the opportunity to hit submit. Once you hit submit the application, the system will then block you out of the application. So if you're not to the point where you hit submit, you will always be able to go back. So if you start the application September 1, you're working on it, you keep coming back in and out, it'll save your work. But then once you hit submit, it will lock that application down, and it will send you an auto-generated email just confirming that it was submitted. Then your manager will go through and review and make sure that everything is in order. If there is a problem or a question that we have, we might need more information, we will send you an email letting you know what it is that we need. If it is approved, we'll also send you notification to let you know. Then we'll go through the next step, which is presenting to the board. And if you were with us at the beginning of the webinar, when we kind of talked through the timeline, we will not present your organization to the board if we see any issues. So that is also a step that we need to go through, but we'll let you know if there are any issues that come up or arise during that time. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the questions and see what's come in. Okay, it looks like we've answered most of the questions that have come in so far. We'll continue to work with you. If you have a specific question on a service address, we'll work with you individually to make sure that we get all of those answered. All right, there was a question about the CEO letter dated October 1, 2015. Because the majority of the people on this call are from market unique charities, we're going to go ahead and push your question over to the manager so that they can connect with you as a national charity to answer any of those questions. However, I will tell you, on the member resources page, there is a tutorial on the attachment B, which is your IRS letter, your CEO letter, as well as the bona fide list. So you can check that out in the meantime while we get you connected. The next question that came in was about the attachment A, and it asked, what period of time should the attachment A cover? It's a great question. For charities that are unique or chapters of nationals, you can report to us 2015 activities. So services that you provided from January 1 through December 31. But you might say, well, Shelley, the deadline is now and before we get to December 31. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. OPM's requirements only require a number of activities. It does not have to go or carry through the end of the year. So if you want to go ahead and start working on your attachment A, pull your numbers, pull your program reports, you can report to us through, let's say, the end of September or wherever you're at getting started through August. You can also make a projection on the services that you'll provide in the last quarter. We do ask that if once you finish the year out, if they were plus or minus 10%, so 10% less or 10% more, you contact us and we'll make the adjustment in the attachment A. So go ahead and work on your attachment A. If you have enough services to qualify, simply cut it off at the August 30th timeline or give us some from spring, late winter. But that's why we ask that you go ahead and get started now, and you can work with your manager to make sure that you've completed it correctly and fine. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Take a look at that little tutorial. It'll also break some more of that down. One of the questions says, what are they not asking for this year that they asked for last year? It was my understanding we would not have to submit nearly what we had to last year, but it seems like we're asking for the same thing. It's a great question. If you were new last year, you did need to provide all of the information. If you did the application online, all of your marketing materials, your charity profile, your contacts, all of that should remain and carry over. Because it is an annual application and they do require services for 2015, last year's services only required, obviously, for 2014. So we would need your new services attachment A report. We would also need your updated financials. And so unless they were dated 6/30/14. So you do need to provide an updated attachment A, an updated attachment C, and D if they fell out of scope of the deadline. So everything else should carry over. We still want you to look through it, make any changes to your 25-word statement, make any changes on contacts. We still ask that you look through it, but if there aren't any changes, you simply hit next. All right, as I continue to look through the questions, I just want to put up my final screen. A couple of things to remember. We really want you to stay in contact with us through the member connection updates. Again, if you are not receiving those on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, please send an email to memberconnection@Health Charities. Make sure to include your name, your email address, your org name, as well as if you'll be the primary contact or you just need access to the member resources page. All right. As I take a look to see if there are any more questions, I do want to remind you we'll go ahead and post today's webinar on that member resources page. The slides are already posted there, but we'll go ahead and get this one posted there as well, or in replace of. This one's a little bit shorter. Same information though, don't worry. Again, if you have questions that we didn't answer via direct private message to you as you ask them or over to the whole group, your manager will respond to you. We just wanted those that are outside of scope or very specific to your organization, we want to handle with you directly. Can we Update our marketing materials at any time. The marketing materials, that's a great question. Last year, we didn't ask for those until February. This year, we're asking for those during the application period. So we want to have those collected now during the application period. If you do have a change or an updated marketing material, email it to Member Connection, and we'll make sure to post it on the back end so that our sites will be populated correctly, so that when any of our field staff or any of the staff need the materials, they'll have the most updated. So again, we're asking that you do the marketing materials as part of your application this year, rather than holding off into it until spring. But if you do upload, if your logo changes or you have updated stories, we're always loving updated stories. Just email them over to us and we'll make sure to get them populated on the back end. Well, it doesn't look like there's any additional questions that have come through this afternoon. So again, I want to thank you for your time. We're looking forward to really having a smooth season. That's why we want to get started now, get you thinking, get you into the system so that you can really breeze through it, making sure that you're comfortable with what you're submitting, that we're getting what we need so that we can get you into as many campaigns this winter and spring, and really so that you can focus on your mission. Our job here is to make this as smooth as possible so you don't have to spend your time on these things, but you can really be out there doing what you're called to do and serving those people in your community and across the nation. So thank you again for your time today, and we'll look forward to connecting soon. Take care.